First contact catastrophe. The vast emptiness of space stretched before the view screen of the HS Intrepid, Earth's most advanced battleship. Captain Maya Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her dark eyes reflecting the distant stars as she surveyed the sector. The Intrepid had been patrolling the outer reaches of human space for 3 months, a show of force in response to disturbing sensor readings from the Perseus arm. "Anything on long-range scanners, Lieutenant Reeves?" Captain Chen asked, her voice carrying across the hushed bridge. Lieutenant Reeves, a young officer with a reputation for catching details others missed, frowned at his console. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures at coordinates 227 Mark 34. Pattern doesn't match anything in our database." Chen moved to his station, studying the readouts with narrowed eyes. "Magnify sector." The main view screen shifted, zooming in on a distant section of space that appeared empty at first glance. But as the computer enhanced the image, a massive shape began to materialize, a vessel unlike any they had encountered before. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, with organic-looking curves and protrusions that defied conventional starship design. "First contact scenario," Chen announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Alert command. Tactical status yellow. Let's not appear threatening, but I want all systems ready to respond." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the Intrepid for any eventuality. Humanity had ventured into the stars 50 years ago, establishing colonies across 12 systems. They had encountered primitive alien life forms, but never an advanced spacefaring civilization. The protocols for first contact had been established decades ago, but never implemented. "They're hailing us, Captain," Communications Officer Paddle reported, surprise evident in her voice. "Audio and visual." "On screen," Chen ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. The view screen flickered, revealing a being that appeared almost human, but with subtle differences that marked it as undeniably alien. Its skin had a bluish tint, eyes larger than a human's with vertical pupils. When it spoke, its voice was melodic, almost hypnotic. "Greetings, travelers. I am Emissary Xal of the Voidborn Collective. We have observed your species' expansion with great interest." Captain Chen introduced herself and her vessel, careful to project both strength and diplomatic openness. The conversation that followed seemed promising. The Voidborn claimed to be peaceful explorers, traversing the galaxy in search of knowledge and new civilizations. "We would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations," Fazal said. "Perhaps you would accept our invitation to visit our vessel, or we could arrange a meeting at a neutral location of your choosing." After consulting with Earth Command, Chen agreed to a meeting aboard a small space station orbiting an uninhabited planet at the edge of human space. The diplomatic team, led by Ambassador Reiko Takahashi, arrived 3 days later. Captain Chen accompanied the delegation, leaving her first officer in command of the Intrepid, which remained at high alert, despite the seemingly peaceful nature of the encounter. The meeting facility was prepared with meticulous care, accommodating both species' environmental needs. As Chen watched Ambassador Takahashi and Emissary Xal exchange formal greetings, she couldn't shake a sense of unease. Something about the Voidborn's mannerisms struck her as calculated rather than genuine. During a brief recess, Chen pulled Takahashi aside. "Ambassador, I don't mean to overstep, but something feels wrong. Their technology is clearly centuries beyond ours, yet they're treating us as equals. Why?" Takahashi frowned. "I've had the same thought, Captain. Their proposals are generous, almost too generous, and they shown remarkable knowledge of our governmental structures despite claiming this is first contact." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the station. Chen's communicator activated automatically. "Captain." It was Commander Park from the Intrepid. "Multiple Voidborn vessels declocking from the main ship. They're heading toward New Terra and our other colonies. Energy weapons charging." Chen turned to confront K'tal, only to find the emissary smiling coldly. "You should have stayed in your own backyard, humans. Zal said, all pretense of friendliness gone. This sector has belonged to the Voidborn for millennia. Your colonies are an infestation to be cleansed. Security officers moved to detain the Voidborn delegation, but the aliens seemed to shimmer before dissolving into mist. Holograms. They had never really been there. All personnel, evacuate immediately, Chen ordered, rushing toward the shuttle bay. Intrepid, prepare for emergency departure and combat. The diplomatic mission returned to the Intrepid as reports flooded in from across human space. Voidborn vessels had appeared near every human colony, launching devastating attacks without warning. New Terra, humanity's most populous colony with 8 million inhabitants, was under heavy bombardment. Set course for New Terra, maximum speed, Chen commanded as she returned to the bridge. Alert all military vessels in the sector. This is not a drill. We are at war. The Intrepid's engines roared to life, pushing the battleship to its limits as they raced toward New Terra. They arrived to find 3 smaller human vessels already engaged with a Voidborn cruiser twice their size. The colonial defense platforms, designed to deter pirates and handle minor threats, were already destroyed, debris floating in orbit around the planet. Analysis of enemy capabilities, Chen demanded. Their weapons are energy-based, Captain, Tactical Officer Rodriguez reported. Some kind of particle beam technology. Shields on the defending vessels are failing rapidly. Their hulls seem to absorb standard weapons fire. Chen assessed the situation quickly. The Intrepid was humanity's newest warship, but it was still just one vessel against an enemy of unknown strength. New Terra, however, was home to millions. There was no choice. Target the enemy vessel's apparent weapon nodes. Fire all railguns, full spread of tactical missiles. Deploy countermeasures and prepare for close engagement. The Intrepid announced its arrival with a barrage of hypervelocity projectiles that streaked across space toward the Voidborn cruiser. The alien vessel attempted to evade, but Chen had anticipated its movement pattern. Several shots connected, causing visible damage to its hull. The Voidborn ship turned its attention from the smaller vessels to the Intrepid, retaliating with energy weapons that strained the battleship's shields. Shields at 64% and dropping, Rodriguez reported. Their weapons are adapting to our defensive frequency. Chen ordered evasive maneuvers, using the Intrepid's superior agility to avoid the worst of the enemy fire while continuing to target the Voidborn vessel's weapon systems. The smaller human ships, seizing the opportunity, regrouped and launched a coordinated attack from the opposite vector. For 20 minutes, the battle raged in orbit around New Terra. The Intrepid took heavy damage, losing weapons systems and suffering hull breaches on multiple decks. But under Chen's command, they pressed the attack relentlessly, targeting the same sections of the enemy vessel until finally they detected a cascade failure in the Voidborn ship's power systems. "They're withdrawing, Captain," Rodriguez announced, unable to keep a note of surprise from his voice. Breaking orbit and accelerating away from the planet. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Chen silenced it with a raised hand. "Damage report, and get me a status update on the other colonies." The news was grim. While they had managed to drive off the attack on New Terra, 2 smaller colonies had been completely destroyed. The Voidborn had withdrawn from most engagements once they encountered significant resistance, but they had inflicted terrible damage. The death toll was already in the hundreds of thousands. As emergency operations began on New Terra, Captain Chen received a priority communication from Fleet Admiral Okonkwo. "Captain, your actions saved New Terra," the Admiral said, her face grave on the view screen. "But this is just the beginning. Long-range sensors have detected a massive Voidborn fleet assembling at the edge of our territory. We're recalling all vessels to Earth to prepare our defense." Chen looked at the tactical display showing the devastation around her, then at her wounded but still fighting crew. "Admiral, permission to speak freely?" At Okonkwo's nod, Chen continued. "If we retreat to Earth, we abandon our colonies. The Intrepid is damaged but operational. Let me gather whatever ships can be spared and establish a forward defense line. We need time to evacuate the colonies, if nothing else." There was a long pause before Admiral Okonkwo responded. "Very well, Captain. I'm designating you Task Force Commander. Do what you can to slow them down, but your primary mission is intelligence gathering. We need to know what we're facing." As the communication ended, Chen turned to her bridge crew. "Send word to all operational vessels in the sector. We're making our stand at Proxima Station. And get our science team working on the sensor data from the engagement. There has to be a weakness we can exploit." The crew looked at her with determination in their eyes. Humanity had been bloodied but not defeated, and Captain Maya Chen had no intention of letting the Voidborn take one more human life without making them pay dearly for it. Humanity strikes back. Proxima Station hung in space like a wounded sentinel. Once a thriving commercial hub connecting Earth to its colonies, it now served as the command center for Captain Chen's hastily assembled defense force. 6 days had passed since the initial Voidborn attack, and the situation had grown increasingly dire. "Task Force Status Report," Chen requested, studying the holographic display in the station's command center. Commander Guerres, her newly appointed executive officer, highlighted various points on the display. "We've consolidated 14 vessels, Captain. 3 heavy cruisers including the Intrepid, 7 destroyers, and 4 armed civilian transports retrofitted with military-grade shields. Repairs are ongoing. Estimated combat readiness is 78%. Chen nodded, turning her attention to the science station, where Dr. Elias Kim had been analyzing data from their previous encounters with the Voidborn. "Doctor, please tell me you found something we can use." Kim, an astrophysicist who had been studying exotic energy phenomena before the war, looked up from his console with dark circles under his eyes but excitement in his voice. "I believe I have, Captain. The Voidborn ships absorb conventional energy weapons and most projectiles, but there's a pattern to their defensive capabilities." He manipulated the display to show sensor readings from the battle at New Terra. "Their hull technology seems to operate on a quantum frequency shift that allows them to phase partially out of our dimension, making them nearly invulnerable." "Nearly?" Chen asked, seizing on the word. "Yes. Their phase shifting creates a temporary vulnerability to specific radiation wavelengths. Their ships emit a unique neutrino pattern during weapon discharge, and during that precise moment, their dimensional phasing fluctuates." Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. "So if we could hit them with the right type of weapon at exactly the right moment, we could bypass their defenses entirely," Kim finished. "The problem is timing. The window is milliseconds at most, and we'd need specialized weapons calibrated to exploit this weakness." Chen considered this information, mentally cataloging the resources at her disposal. The Intrepid's primary particle accelerator could be modified to emit that specific radiation signature. How many ships would need these modifications to make a difference? At minimum, 3 strategically positioned vessels could create a triangulation effect, Kim replied. If they fired simultaneously during the enemy's weapon discharge, the combined radiation burst would disrupt their phase variance across their entire fleet within the affected area. Chen made her decision. "Begin modifications immediately. Commander Guerres, select our 2 best ships to accompany the Intrepid. Dr. Kim, I want your team working around the clock on a targeting system that can predict the Voidborn firing patterns." As the command center emptied, Admiral Okonkwo's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain, our long-range scouts report the Voidborn fleet will reach your position in approximately 48 hours. Their numbers are substantial." "How substantial?" Chen asked, bracing herself. "At least 30 capital ships, with numerous smaller vessels. Chen, I've authorized the evacuation of all remaining colonies. The Earth Defense Fleet is preparing for a last stand, but realistically." Chen finished the thought. "Realistically, if we can't stop them here, Earth will fall." "Understood, Admiral. We'll be ready." The next 2 days were a flurry of activity. Dr. Kim's team worked tirelessly to modify the weapons systems, while Chen drilled her task force in complex maneuvers designed to maximize their effectiveness against the superior Voidborn numbers. The civilian population of Proxima Station was evacuated, leaving only military personnel and essential support staff. 8 hours before the expected arrival of the Voidborn fleet, Shen gathered the captains of all 14 vessels for a final briefing. "The plan is straightforward," she explained, indicating the tactical display. "The modified vessels, Intrepid, Dauntless, and Hyperion, will form the points of our triangle. The remaining ships will provide defensive coverage and draw enemy fire to create targeting opportunities. Our objective is to disrupt the Voidborn phase technology, rendering their fleet vulnerable to conventional attacks." Captain Rice of the Dauntless frowned. "With respect, Captain Chen, this plan places your modified ships at extreme risk. The Voidborn will target you once they realize what you're attempting." "Undoubtedly," Chen agreed, "which is why timing and coordination are essential. We need to maximize damage during our first strike. We may not get a second chance." As the meeting concluded, Lieutenant Reeves approached Chen privately. "Captain, long-range sensors have detected something unusual. A small vessel approaching from the direction of Earth. It's moving at incredible speed, but it's definitely not Voidborn." The unknown vessel docked at Proxima Station 2 hours later. To Chen's surprise, it carried Dr. Sophia Vaughn, Earth's leading quantum physicist, and a team of engineers. "Admiral Okonkwo sent us," Vaughn explained. "We've brought prototype quantum disruptors based on Dr. Kim's findings. They're more powerful and precise than your modifications." With precious little time remaining, the engineering teams worked frantically to integrate the new technology into the 3 designated ships. The upgraded weapons were barely installed when the proximity alarm sounded. "Voidborn fleet detected," Lieutenant Reeves announced. 35 capital ships, multiple support vessels. They'll be within weapons range in 20 minutes. Chen returned to the Intrepid, leaving Proxima Station under Commander Juarez's control. As she settled into the captain's chair, she opened a channel to all task force vessels. "This is Captain Chen. Today we face an enemy that believes humanity is easy prey. They think us technologically inferior, tactically naive, and mentally weak. Today we prove them wrong. Every second we delay them is another 1,000 civilians safely evacuated. Every Voidborn ship we destroy is one that will never threaten Earth. Hold formation, maintain discipline, and hit them with everything we've got." The Voidborn fleet emerged from Lightspeed exactly where predicted, a massive armada of dark, organic-looking vessels that seemed to swallow the starlight around them. Their formation was aggressive, clearly intended to overwhelm the human defenses through sheer firepower. "All ships, defensive pattern Omega," Chen ordered. "Lure them into the target zone." The human vessels moved in perfect coordination, appearing to scatter in disarray while actually executing a carefully choreographed dance designed to position the Voidborn ships where they needed them. The enemy took the bait, pursuing what they perceived as fleeing prey. "They're launching fighter analogs," Rodriguez reported. "At least 100 small craft deploying from their capital ships." "Ignore them," Chen instructed. "Focus on drawing the capital ships into position. Dauntless and Hyperion. Confirm target lock status." Both ships confirmed they were in position, their quantum disruptors aligned with the Intrepids to form the triangulation field. Now they needed the Voidborn to fire their main weapons simultaneously. "All defense vessels, provocation protocol," Chen ordered. The supporting human ships immediately launched a barrage of missiles and railgun fire at the lid Voidborn vessels, not to cause damage, but to provoke a response. The Voidborn reacted predictably, charging their primary weapons. Sensor data flooded the Intrepid systems as Dr. Kim's targeting algorithm tracked the energy buildup. "Energy spike detected across multiple enemy vessels," Rodriguez called out. "They're preparing to fire." Chen watched the tactical display intently, waiting for the precise moment. Quantum disruptors. Standby. The Voidborn weapons reached full charge, the moment of dimensional vulnerability milliseconds away. Fire. The Intrepid, Dauntless, and Hyperion discharged their quantum disruptors simultaneously. The weapons emitted no visible beam, but the effect was immediate and dramatic. A wave of quantum disruption spread through the Voidborn fleet, causing their hulls to suddenly solidify fully into normal space as their phase technology failed. All vessels, fire all weapons, Chen ordered. The human task force unleashed its full arsenal. Missiles that would have previously been absorbed tore through suddenly vulnerable Voidborn hulls. Railgun rounds punched through critical systems. Energy weapons found purchase where before they had been ineffective. 3 Voidborn capital ships exploded in rapid succession, their structures unable to withstand damage without their phase protection. Several more listed in space, clearly crippled. The Voidborn, facing unexpected catastrophe, attempted to regroup. Their smaller vessels swarmed the 3 ships carrying quantum disruptors, recognizing them as the primary threat. Evasive maneuvers. Chen ordered as the Intrepid shuddered under enemy fire. Prepare second quantum burst. The human fleet tightened its formation, the undamaged vessels moving to protect the 3 key ships. The Hyperion took heavy damage, its engines failing as Voidborn fighters concentrated their attack. Hyperion is losing power, Communications Officer Paddle reported. Their quantum disruptor is offline. Chen calculated rapidly. Without the 3rd point in their triangle, the quantum disruption field would be incomplete. The Voidborn would adapt quickly, and their advantage would be lost. Proxima Station, Chen called. Lock your station-based quantum disruptor on these coordinates. Prepare to fire on my mark. Commander Juarez's voice came through clearly. Station disruptor ready, Captain. But using it will overload our power grid. The station won't survive. Understood, Commander. Evacuate all personnel to the remaining transports. The battle raged as the station crew scrambled to escape. The human fleet continued to fight valiantly, but without the quantum disruption field, the Voidborn were regaining their advantage. 2 more human vessels were destroyed, their crews lost. Station evacuated, Captain, Juarez reported minutes later. Disruptor locked on target coordinates. All vessels, pull back to rally point Beta, Chen ordered. As the human ships disengage, creating distance between themselves and the Voidborn fleet, she opened a direct channel to Proxima Station. Fire. The station's massive quantum disruptor activated, generating a disruption field far more powerful than the combined output of the 3 ships. The Voidborn fleet, clustered tightly together in pursuit of the retreating human vessels, was caught entirely within its effect. Every Voidborn ship froze in space as their phase technology catastrophically failed. Systems overloaded, weapons deactivated, and hulls became fully vulnerable. Before they could recover, Proxima Station's power core went critical, exploding in a blinding flash that engulfed the nearest enemy vessels. All ships, attack pattern Alpha, target the disabled vessels first, Chen commanded. The human task force turned as one and charged back into the fray. What followed was not a battle but an execution. The Voidborn, stripped of their technological advantage, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought by the smaller human fleet. Ship after ship succumbed to concentrated fire, unable to phase away from human weapons. Within 30 minutes, it was over. The once mighty Voidborn armada was reduced to drifting wreckage. 3 vessels managed to escape, limping away at sublight speeds, but the invasion force was destroyed. The human victory came at a heavy cost. Of the 14 vessels in Captain Chen's task force, only 8 remained operational. Proxima Station was gone, sacrificed to ensure humanity's survival. But Earth and its remaining colonies were safe, at least for now. As the Intrepid led the surviving ships toward Earth, Captain Chen recorded her report for Admiral Okonkwo and the United Earth government. The Voidborn threat has been neutralized, she stated, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Dr. Kim and Dr. Vaughn's quantum disruption technology proved decisive. I recommend immediate production and distribution to all Earth defense vessels in preparation for potential future encounters. She paused, looking at the casualty reports scrolling across her screen. The officers and crew who gave their lives did so knowing they stood between humanity and extinction. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten, and let it be known throughout the galaxy. Humanity will not surrender, will not cower, and will not be conquered. We stand ready to extend friendship to those who seek peace, but any who threaten our existence will meet the same fate as the Voidborn. As the Intrepid entered Earth space, a fleet of vessels moved to escort them home. Not just military ships, but civilian craft of all sizes, come to welcome their defenders and honor their sacrifice. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just surviving, but victorious. And Captain Maya Chen, looking out at the blue-green planet that was humanity's birthplace, allowed herself a moment of pride. They had done more than win a battle. They had secured humanity's future among the stars.